It is Thursday, July 2nd, 2015. This is your morning edition on I-24 News. Coming up later today, terror in the Sinai. At least 17 Egyptian soldiers are dead as ISIS claims responsibility for a series of attacks on military outposts in the peninsula. European officials slammed the door on any further negotiations with Greece before a national referendum planned for Sunday as the country struggles to stay afloat. And later on the show, the U.S. State Department releases 3,000 pages of Hillary Clinton's emails, and some of them are a must-read. Good morning, I'm Yael Levi, and we begin in Egypt today, where ferocious clashes between ISIS militants and military forces claimed the lives of scores of people yesterday. The battle began when jihadist insurgents attacked several military checkpoints in northern Sinai in a coordinated assault employing car bombs. One security source put the number of militants at about 300, armed with heavy and anti-aircraft weapons. The army responded by sending in F-16 fighter jets and attack helicopters that bombarded the militants as they fought police and soldiers on the streets of the North Sinai town of Sheikh Zayed. Shortly after the clashes broke out, Israel closed off its border crossing to the peninsula. Fears are raised in the area that the ISIS militants may use the armored vehicles they captured in the attacks to try and cross into Israel, according to security sources. Forces in the area have been placed on high alert. Wednesday's assault was the second high-profile attack in Egypt this week. On Monday, the prosecutor general was killed in a car bombing in Cairo. The attack was the largest since jihadists launched an insurgency in 2013 following the army's overthrow of Islamist President Mohamed Morsi. I'm joined in studio by Russia Today Middle East Bureau Chief Paula Sliwa. Paula, good morning to you. By Senior Foreign Affairs Editor for Channel 2 in Israel, Arad Nir. Good morning to you. Before we break this down, let's take a look at the following report about the latest from the attacks in the Sinai and break it down.
Violence in Egypt's Sinai Peninsula reached a new peak Wednesday with a coordinated terror attack on numerous military positions carried out by the Islamic State's regional affiliate. The Egyptian army said around 70 IS militants attacked 5 military checkpoints in northern Sinai in an onslaught that began in the morning hours and lasted well into the evening. IS soon claimed responsibility on Twitter, though it said the attack targeted 15 military sites, carrying out 3 suicide bombings. Egyptian security sources said at least 70 people were killed in the attacks, along with at least 38 IS militants who were killed in the fighting that ensued. But those numbers could very well rise once the dust settles. Much of the violence centered around the town of Sheikh Zayed, where terrorists reportedly surrounded a police station and planted bombs around it to trap those inside. The attack follows violent incidents earlier in the week in Egypt, including a car bomb attack in Cairo, which resulted in the death of the state prosecutor, Hisham Barakat. He played a key role in numerous cases against leaders of the Islamist Muslim Brotherhood group. Following that attack, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi promised he would be introducing new security measures in the coming days.
We'll bring justice as quickly as possible. Within days, the laws will be presented, the right laws of criminal procedures that parallel the developments that we're facing. We're facing terrorism. Therefore, there must be laws that parallel that, and trials that parallel that. We will not take 5 to 10 years to try those killing us.
In a development which may be related, Egyptian security forces stormed an apartment in a Cairo suburb and killed 9 men, described as armed. One of them was a prominent lawyer for the Muslim Brotherhood. IS had urged its members to escalate attacks during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan.
Let's go first straight to Cairo, where we're joined by I-24 News contributor Jake Wirtschafter. Jake, good morning to you.
Good morning, Al. It's an hour earlier here.
Apologies for that. That said, when we're looking at these attacks in the Sinai that have been covered across the board when it comes to the region, what do we know this morning? Are also these ISIS-affiliated militants in control of any town there in northern Sinai? And what is expected today when it comes to retaliation on the part of the administration?
So I need to be candid with you and the viewers that our sources of information about what's going on in Sheikh Zayed are limited.
Right.
What we've got are Twitter reports from people on the ground. We've got statements from Ansar Beit al-Maqdis, and we've got what the Egyptian military is saying. So the Egyptian military is saying that they've got Sheikh Zayed and North Sinai, quote, 100% under control. Now that is less than 24 hours after a coordinated attack that we now think actually hit 15 separate military facilities in the area yesterday morning at 6 a.m. So that's a very quick victory. And it was done with F-16s, and we do have Egyptian Air Force pilot cam video of targeting in North Sinai. And we also have very gruesome pictures that were posted by the Egyptian army spokesman of scores of the militants, of the ISIS militants killed. And there's Facebook picture after Facebook picture of dead terrorists.
Right.
So there was a bloodbath there yesterday. It was the bloodiest day in the Sinai Peninsula since 1973. Now, could this possibly all be over? I mean, it's hard to believe.
No, entirely. And when we're looking at this aftermath and the flurry of information that, as you rightfully mentioned, is hard to gauge because sources or, free media at the end of the day is not that much available. And the area in northern Sinai is entirely closed off. But what is Sisi promising this morning? Because it's, as you said, it's the bloodiest day in the Sinai in a while. It's a coordinated attack of 15 outposts, which is quite insane in that respect. What is Sisi expected to do when he says more measures, more strict measures of security?
So I think the focus here in Cairo is on the Brotherhood. So you saw that raid yesterday in 6th of October City, where there are differing accounts of what happened. The military here and the police here are saying that a cell of Brotherhood members were planning another attack here in the capital. Right. And in fact, the prior day, there was a bombing outside a police station in 6 October. And meanwhile, of course, there's this raft of new laws that are about controlling the criminal proceedings against charged terrorists. And it's interesting because they want to move towards death penalty much faster here. And I think that's the answer, is that they are going to ramp up and speed up all proceedings against all suspected and convicted terrorists.
And convicted terrorists, which, as we know, are actually people who were standing at the top of administrations in Egypt not a long while ago, so to speak. But Jake, staying with us, Arad Neal, Senior Foreign Affairs Editor of Channel 2. I want to wonder with you once I get my voice back, but I wonder with you out loud. Sisi has been consolidating his power, so to speak, over the course of the last year and a half, over the course of since he took over for Morsi. This happens. Is the Egyptian administration really in control? Is the Sinai in danger, given the security there on behalf of the Egyptians that is not really dealing that well with the insurgencies there? Does he need more help? Is the Sinai in danger of falling into the wrong hands?
Well, as we know, the situation is very complicated, and it seems that the grip of power backlashes on Sisi. It seems that the Islamic Brotherhood and its various directions, they can resort only to power now. They can resort only to terrorism. They've got no other choice to express themselves. So these ISIS terrorists who operate in the Sinai Peninsula and in Egypt, they've got lots of support from the ground roots of the Muslim Brotherhood that might have resort to other directions of expression should they had the opportunity. Right. That's the one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is that Sisi gets lots of support from Israel. The cooperation between Israel and Egypt at the moment is unprecedented. This is why Israel allows the Egyptian army to bring more troops and more Air Force operation than the militarization agreement allows Egypt to bring into the Sinai Peninsula, in order to fight terrorism. On the other hand, and that's the third side of this coin, we have two armies, the Israeli army on the one side, the Egyptian army on the other side, and a terrorist organization in between. Now, with the mightiest of power, armies cannot beat terrorism. You have to find a way to resort and to take out the initiative from the terrorists to operate. And how this is being done, I don't have the answer.
Nobody seems to have the answer. And Paula, I'm asking you because you've covered, the Middle East at large, so to speak. You've seen ISIS all over the place. There's something for me that is slightly, raises the question, is this really ISIS? Is any group that, carries out connected assaults in Sinai, and what we're reading is affiliated with ISIS, Lord knows what, it seems to be the big enemy. Are they at the gates, really, as the Israeli Prime Minister is saying, as he was quoted saying last night? Are they really that much of a danger in the Sinai, or is every group going to jump on that bandwagon, so to speak, and then maintain that as the form of attack?
It's really difficult to say because, as Jake said, there's a media blackout, and there has been a media blackout out there for quite some time. I remember about a year ago, we were actually trying to go to the Sinai to do reports, and we couldn't even find an Egyptian-based crew that was prepared to travel to the Sinai. We were talking to locals in the area. They told us not to come, that the situation was so dire. But as you say, on the social media, you have ISIS declaring responsibility. Obviously, that's part of their media campaign to frighten people. The facts on the ground, though, do point to a rise in extremism. Whether it's ISIS or whether it's not, you certainly have on Israel's doorstep groups that are rising to the occasion. And it's all part of what has been happening in the region since the Arab Spring. You have, for example, the overthrow of Mubarak that saw prison releases and mass prisoners actually leaving the jails. You then had Morsi, where there was a security vacuum, and that gave the jihadists in the area the opportunity to actually strengthen their roots and grow up from there. And then with the overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi in Libya, you had weapons coming down from there. So all of that has lent itself, and as Arad said, it's fed into the local dissatisfaction of people, predominantly the Bedouin population, who for a long time have felt distanced from Cairo. So when you have the breeding ground for extremism, whether it's ISIS or whether it's another group, but with the same kind of tendencies, you certainly have this upsurge of extremism on the ground. On
the ground that is hard to actually, point the finger and really say who's to blame. But Jake, just back to you on that, because you mentioned, I'm assuming that Sisi is going to try to, as you said, connect this to the Muslim Brotherhood. But if he's speeding up trials, are we actually looking at the possibility of actual executions? Because none of them has been really, put to death thus far. But let's say in the case of Morsi, in something like that, can it speed up and actually we are going to see an execution of a Muslim Brotherhood leader sometime in the future? Isn't that going to destabilize Egypt even more?
I think we're going to see lots of political theater, which will include executions of high-level Muslim Brotherhood officials. Whether it's Sisi, we don't know. But getting back to the core question about the relationship between violence and politics, here, as Paula rightly said, you got to look at the Bedouin thing. And the reality is the underdevelopment of Sinai for the Bedouin population and the lack of resources and possibilities for them to move ahead economically has by Cairo. And on the other hand, we have to remember that there's this matrix between the Bedouin in the Sinai and smuggling and the Palestinians in Gaza.
Right.
And you're beginning to see some different kinds of messaging out of Cairo. As close as Cairo and Jerusalem are on security matters, on political matters, you're seeing some distancing and some distinguishing happening now, with the Egyptian Foreign Ministry making statements such as the base of instability in the region remains the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And this is the exact opposite of the messaging from Jerusalem, which says no matter what you want done on Israel-Palestine, it can't happen because the region is so crazy. And there's begun to be this message out of Cairo that there's an expectation that movement needs to happen on Palestine. What that means, given the craziness, it's hard to know. But I don't think that the military coordination is exactly in sync with the political coordination between Cairo and Jerusalem.
No, interesting. And when it comes to that political bit, Arad, I'm glad you're here because that leads me to, to conclude this. The fact that it was announced, I think, last week that the Egyptian ambassador is going to be returning to Israel. Is this because Sisi needs the Israelis right now more so, or are we looking at some sort of a forming type of, quote-unquote, semi-coalition in face of this ISIS thing, or possibly also a deal with Iran?
I think that there's lots of commonalities at the moment between between Jerusalem and Cairo. Sisi needs Israel definitely in the security sense to hold the grip on the extremists in Cairo. And these talk about the Israeli-Palestinian issue. I see it mainly as lip service.
As rhetoric
and lip service, yes.
Because the public expects that to happen. Okay, but that said, Egypt clearly, I don't want to say on the brink, but, flaring up. We're going to keep our eyes on it as we move along. Moving to Greece, where Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras vowed yesterday to push ahead with a controversial bailout referendum, urging citizens to reject an international bailout deal featuring strict austerity demands, a day after Greece became the first advanced economy to default on a debt to the IMF. Long lines at cash machines provided a stark visual symbol of the pressure on Tsipras, who came into power in January vowing to end austerity and protect the poor. Now, Greece's creditors held consultations yesterday that concluded with an agreement to halt talks with Athens until the results of the referendum were clear, and that would be a referendum that Tsipras himself called for. Still with me in studio, obviously, Channel 2 Senior Foreign Affairs Editor Arad Nir. Paul is here with us as well. I'm not going to turn to you. That said, let's take a look, first of all, at how Greece is holding on, trying to hold on, as it's, well, actually defaulted in the following piece.
Important last-minute progress has been made to settle the Greek debt crisis, according to Italian officials. Talks to keep the debt-ridden country in the Eurozone continued Wednesday with hope of progress, but in the shadow of the expired deadline for Greece to pay back its 1.6 billion euros IMF loan.
Unfortunately, dialogue with Greece didn't start until late. A lot of time has been wasted, largely because the Greek authorities have not come up with any concrete proposals. Despite this wasted time, which has left us with very little time left, we have made important progress on many issues.
The point was echoed strongly by France, who stressed in stronger words than before that European leaders must commit to a solution for Greece.
It is our duty to ensure Greece stays in the Eurozone. That depends on Greece and especially on the Greeks' answer if there is a referendum. But it also depends on us, all of us.
Meanwhile, Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras made yet another surprise announcement Wednesday that he was prepared to accept most of the creditors' bailout terms, albeit with some modifications. But his previous resistance to accepting the European bailout deal is taking its toll on small businesses in the country. Tourist numbers fell in the days leading up to Greece's debt default. The premier had forced a shutdown of the country's banking system after a last-ditch attempt to reach a bailout deal with its international creditors failed. The crisis could be turning the tide against Tsipras within the Greek public. And also Wednesday, Greek pensioners protested against austerity in front of the finance ministry. Another sign of how top-level talks between Greece and Eurozone officials are taking their toll on the ground.
Joined from Athens now by strategic communications consultant Stratos Safiolias. Stratos, good morning to you. We have been speaking every morning. This is the second day, so to speak, post the default. Try to explain to us what Tsipras is doing, because the statements that came out from his speech late last night were again defiant, but a couple of hours prior to that, he seemed to have accepted a deal. What are the Greeks feeling? What are the people in Greece feeling about this morning? Is there any indication on what is going to be decided on Sunday?
Well, I think at least today we don't expect anything good and any positive surprises. Yesterday it was this last time when we went from desperation to hope and then back to desperation. So now we're stuck in this situation. We have to go to the referendum, and in my opinion, the situation is clear. It's not clear to everyone. You have to understand, people are going. That's why the referendum is dangerous, because people are voting yes or no, based on different things. What actually we have in front of us is a question on a highly technical matter. But those who vote yes, they're going to vote yes to stay in the Eurozone. And those who vote no, they're upset, they're tired, they have suffered, they had enough. And these two different opinions on a question that doesn't exist really on the piece of paper will have to count themselves on this coming Sunday. It seems to me that the yes vote will start leading the polls.
Start leaving the polls. Arad Nir still with me in studio, and we're looking at Greece this morning and this back and forth from Tsipras yesterday and the pictures that we saw of people amassing the parliament doors. I mean, at the end of the day, what can happen? I mean, nobody wants, it seems like nobody in Europe wants Greece out of the Eurozone. but it doesn't seem like Tsipras really has a clear agenda.
Regarding these pictures of people pouring into the parliament,
Right.
I must just stress that one day we see the people who are pro, and the other day we see the people who are against. So it means nothing. Now, Yael, there are so many cliches attached to this Greek issue. Let me join.
Please.
So in this drama, in this Greek
drama.
tragedy,
Right.
we have reached the scene in which we are exposed to the mere characters of the issue, and there are two bad characters. One would be Angela Merkel from Berlin, and the other one is Alexis Tsipras from Athens. Now, Tsipras is playing the bad boy, and Merkel is playing the teacher. You know, she wants to teach him how to behave, and it gets
How
nothing.
terribly German.
They are both are dragging their heels in the very same place. So I think for the time being, we are in the break of this tragedy, of this drama, if you want, and we have to come in, I'd rather say, in the intermission. You know, it's the intermission time now, and the play will resume on Monday after the results of the referendum come out, and then they will both position themselves again. I don't think that Europe can afford to lose Greece, because it will be repeated probably elsewhere by other debt holders. And on the other hand, Greece also, I mean, it can't stand on its own, because it has such a big debt to the international creditors. So, you know, we don't know how it will go. You know, it's there are so many known unknowns in all the issues we are talking here this morning, but this is the world we live in. And one more concern of Europe that I want to stress: we've been many meetings between Tsipras and Putin recently, and
Putin said that
regarding the current equation, you know,
in Europe.
In Europe, the current balance of powers, I don't see Europe Europe cannot afford to lose Greece. And this is why the Obama administration presses on the European Union to find a way and resolve it and keep Greece between, because they don't want to lose the Greeks to the Russians.
But Putin's looking for friends. I mean, the Russians obviously want to stock up as many friends as they can. I mean, Putin is facing one of the biggest isolation periods since his presidency began.
Yeah.
So it's the fertile ground for him to get involved.
This is why Obama tries to eliminate it.
No, so which is interesting to see that those big two powers, at the end of the day, it's still Europe being a continent being fought over by two big powers at the end of the day. Sadly, all the time we have on this, and you see you had something to say as we move along. Moving on, still in Europe, though, to Vienna, where all eyes are on the representatives of Iran and world powers as they continue to hold intensive talks in an effort to reach a comprehensive agreement to freeze Iran's nuclear program in exchange for sanction relief. That said, for foreign ministers Kerry and Zarif had little to say yesterday as in the talks as they emerged in front of the microphones, other than saying that they were working hard and that progress had been made. Let's go straight first to Vienna, where Eli Hochenberg, I24 News correspondent, has been covering these talks. What is expected today, Eli?
Yes, yeah, well, day 2 of the extension, and today is not expected to be any less hectic than yesterday. The head of the IAEA, Yukiya Amano, is in Tehran today. He will meet with the Iranian President Hassan Rouhani and other Iranian regime's officials. So it's a really, really good signal that we're heading in the right direction. And here, all the P5+1 foreign ministers are expected to gather right here behind me at the Coburg luxury hotel. well. So it's yet another stage forward in the negotiation. And as for now, I have to say that things seems that are going pretty well, with one main word ruling the statements of all the ones of all involved: progress. Both Kerry and Zarif, as well as other sources close to the Iranian delegations, says that there has been some serious progress and that they are working hard to continue to do so. And from what we understand, there are some certain Iranian colleagues reporting a draft being finalized by the experts level of the negotiations. They will then transfer this this draft to the deputy foreign ministers, and following that, of course, to the foreign ministers themselves. So we might even see the main understandings being reached before the July 7th deadline. It doesn't mean that the agreement itself will be signed before this new deadline, but the main issues may be resolved before.
Ellie, thank you very much. Aradnir and Paulus are still with me in studio. This thing is happening, isn't it?
It's happening. And you know, Yael, we started your program today with the lack of information coming from the Sinai Peninsula.
Lack of information from Vienna.
So let me tell you this, it's the very same situation. Exactly. Although we've got dozens of reporters over there in Vienna, and we have reporters in Washington, some reporters in Tehran, but we know bugger all, as they say.
Exactly.
You know, there's so much disinformation running into this issue. I've been covering previous sessions. This is why I'm here with you today and not over there, because you don't get any advantage. Sure. Especially the Iranians, they use so efficiently the social media, Twitter and Facebook, to bring in disinformation. So we'll know what's going on only when it's done. So I'd say again, it ain't done until it's done. And we know nothing by now, and it's all speculations and disinformation.
I mean, I can just add to the speculation. I got off the phone this morning with an Iranian colleague of mine, and he said that the visit today of the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency potentially to meet with Rouhani was a big surprise. They're not even sure if any statements are going to be made or what is the implication of it. I did ask him precisely that question, whether or not the feeling on the ground was that the deal would be made. Right. And his answer was yes, that the majority of Iranians do support it. But of course, they also work in very difficult media circumstances. I think the feeling out there is that most experts feel that both sides have too much to lose for a deal not to happen, and that there is political will. Certainly there are still stumbling blocks, but what is the alternative? You go back to a potentially nuclear Iran.
We don't. This also we don't know. We do not know. Should there be no deal, we don't know what will happen.
What will happen in that? But we are covering this daily as it leads up to the clock ticking down the next deadline, July 7th. But first, stay with us. I-24 News. Now the news, and we will be back. Good morning, I-24 News Morning Edition on this July 2nd. I love it. It comes with a hand gesture. That would be Ami Kaufman and Ruthie Sinai in studio as well. Looks like she wants to leave.
No, I can just confirm that it's July 2nd.
You can confirm. We have July 2nd,
knowledgeable sources.
Yeah. Exactly. And multiple
cross-checking.
Cross-checking, and it is still 2015. And with this really, really in-depth journalism, we also have the news you missed while scanning the headlines with Ami Kaufman.
Right. We're going to start with the migrant crisis in the Mediterranean Sea. The UN, staggering numbers. The first 6 months of 2015, 137 people tried to cross from Africa to 137,000. What did I say?
137.
Oh my God!
That would not be a headline.
That was wrong. I apologize. 137,000 people. Most of them. This is an increase of 83% from the same period last year. Most of them are Syrians, Afghans, and Eritreans. From those arriving in Greece and Italy, 1 in 3 are Syrians. This is basically proof that this is not necessarily, we should maybe stop calling this a migrant. This is a refugee crisis. These are people that are escaping from war-torn countries and from people that are being persecuted, like from Eritrea, where there's a dictatorship. Same as in Israel, there are 60,000 refugees from Eritrea.
From Eritrea, just in Israel alone, where we're looking at a number like 137,000. That's extraordinary, and terrifying. And case in point, Syria. Apropos, who was it several days ago that said that Syria is the clock is ticking on it? Basically,
just about everybody, right?
Everybody, yeah. Yes, depressing news in the morning.
Off to Europe again. I mean, Western Europe is very, very hot, as we said yesterday. In Britain, as we can see from some pictures that we have, people going to the beach, I think in Brighton Beach. Britain broke a record yesterday. It was 36.7 degrees, the highest record in July ever.
I'm sighing because I lived in London for 2 years, and I missed summer 1 year because I was asleep on July 2nd between 3 and 4. I blinked and summer was over, and now they have a heat wave.
Yeah. Well, so far we're not seeing a catastrophe like we did in 2003 where there were 20,000 people died. But in southern France it reached 42, and in Cordoba in southern Spain 44. That is hot.
That is hot. That's hot weather.
Speaking of hot, off to the States, we're seeing a spate of churches that have been burned down. This is very similar of a string of events that happened in the mid-90s where about 20 churches were burned down. Last night, actually the night before, the 7th church burned. We have a report about this, but we're going to talk about it afterwards. This might not have been arson in this case, but let's see the report first.
Let's take a look first.
This historically black South Carolina church was gutted. Fire ripped through Mount Zion AME in Greeleyville, about 60 miles north of Charleston. Overnight, federal and state investigators moved in. Mount Zion is the 7th house of worship in the South to burn in 10 days. The causes are still under investigation. Weather and electrical problems are believed to be factors for some. But the blaze that took down Briar Creek Road Baptist in Charlotte, North Carolina last week is being called arson.
Whoever has done this, we forgive you, and hopefully there's an opportunity for us to even meet.
In Macon, Georgia, investigators also determined someone intentionally set God's Power Church of Christ on fire.
If someone set this, we want to find them because that's a crime, and we want to solve that.
The fire sparked in the wake of calls to remove Confederate symbols from public places after the pastor and 8 parishioners of Emmanuel AME in Charleston were gunned down by an allegedly racist white man. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives has said there's no reason to believe the fires are racially motivated. For Mount Zion AME, this is the 2nd major fire. 20 years ago, the KKK burned down the church.
Amazing. 20 years ago, the KKK burned down.
I was going to say shades of KKK.
Shades, right. Yeah. No, shades of, to me, it's 2015, apropos that confirmed date, okay? And we're looking at this happening in the United States.
Yes.
And stuff. What is this? It's like, it's 2 weeks after the Charleston shooting?
2 weeks.
Yeah.
So far. And now their initial reports they're saying that there were a lot of thunderstorms in the area, and some people heard a large boom. This might have been actually done by a bolt of lightning, this last one. But still, 6 churches before that were definitely arson.
Exactly.
And this one was 20 years ago, the same exact churches were done by the KKK. So, I don't know. Let's not rush
coincidence,
to
coincidence and very
quickly
sad.
Staying in the U.S., President Barack Obama announced yesterday that U.S. and Cuba will open embassies respectively in Washington and Havana. This is big news.
Cigars for all.
I just want to say, I just have one thing to say about this. If you had told me 10 years ago, for example, that we were going to have a black president, universal health care, gay marriage nationally legal, and relations renewed with Cuba, I really would have laughed.
You might have believed that there's even a possibility for peace in the Middle East.
Yeah, and I'm a critic of Barack Obama, but this I think is pretty amazing.
It's quite outstanding. I do think, though, that on the Cuban issue, it really, 10 years ago, I would have said the same thing I said with Cuba when it happened this year. Long time coming, folks. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. But yes,
55 years long.
I think we can agree that Obama is going to have a legacy, much to the dismay of his critics.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Off to a totally different person who I don't know if he's going to have a legacy. This is his legacy so far, Donald Trump.
Right.
He said he was going to sue Univision, and he is doing it. Suing Univision for $500 million for breaking what he says is breaking the contract. He says that Univision's decision not to broadcast the beauty pageant, his beauty pageant, was politically motivated and an attempt to suppress his freedom of speech. We've also learned that Macy's has dropped him. He has a line of clothes in Macy's, cufflinks and ties and shirts. They will not be selling that anymore. As we can see in the next item, Mexican billionaire Carlos Slim, one of the richest men in the world, is also dropping him.
He owns the New York Times.
He has a stake in the New York Times, and he has a show that he was going to do with Donald Trump. But you know what? With all this that's happening with Donald Trump, in the polls now in Iowa and New Hampshire, where the first primaries in Iowa caucus is going to take place in early 2016, he is now ranking number 2.
Heaven help us.
After Scott Walker, who has yet to announce
I hope
his
he
candidacy.
leaves his brain to science. It'd really be interesting to see how that works.
This is actually very bad for the Republican Party because the Republican Party is trying to woo Latino voters, and this is saying that Republican parties are okay with what, you know.
No, that's the thing. But to me, it reminds, you know, remember when Schwarzenegger was running and then elected governor of California? And I remember I was living in the States and I was saying, this will never happen, can't happen, cannot happen.
There you go.
Just saying. Yes. Okay.
And lastly, from Saudi Arabia, there's going to be Wi-Fi in Mecca, in the area where the Kaaba is. The Saudi National Press Agency said that the Saudi National, listen to the wording, will use this popular wireless networking technology to send guidance and awareness to text messages to pilgrims and visitors. And they will also use Bluetooth service for worshippers to know how many times they've gone around the Kaaba, so they don't lose count.
Okay, and also if you're stuck in one side of them, you know, you can actually text. Never mind. Okay, Ami, that is useful information for both me and Ruti heading to Mecca this year. As we move along, Staying in the U.S., though, this is my favorite story, the American elections that just keep on giving. But according to emails released by the State Department 2 days ago, senior Obama administration staff members knew in 2009 that Hillary Clinton was using a personal email account for her government correspondence. The around 3,000 pages of emails show former White House Chief of Staff Rahm Emanuel requested Clinton's email address in 2009, and top strategist David Axelrod also used the private email address to communicate with Clinton during her time as Secretary of State. Clinton's electronic correspondence has been the focus of controversy since her admission in March that she had used a private account for all her email correspondence while being Secretary of State between 2009 and 2013. But is all of this a smoking gun of sorts, or one that Democratic and Republican presidential wannabes were hoping would erode Clinton's 2016 aspiration? That remains unclear. And to solve it, I'm joined in studio by I-24 News senior editor Ruti Sinai. Good morning. And Ami Kaufman, of course, still here, the man, the bow tie. But before anything, we are going to take a look at the following report.
The newly released emails, a small portion of 55,000 pages, with more emails released every 30 days, ordered by a judge until 3 days before the Iowa caucus, guaranteeing a slow drip of revelations dogging her primary campaign.
I have said repeatedly, I want those emails out. Nobody has a bigger interest in getting them released than I do.
Many of the emails mundane, the business of running a vast government agency, from scheduling meetings to lists of phone calls with foreign dignitaries. Clinton even writing, seemingly sarcastically in one, "You know how much I love making calls." But some reveal a bit of personality. In one, Clinton fighting with her fax machine. I thought it was supposed to be off the hook to work. In another, she seems unaware of a cabinet meeting and worried. I heard on the radio, there's a cabinet meeting. Can I go? There is a redacted email titled Only the Hamptons, one requesting iced tea, and this one on loving a Chinese carpet. Clinton emailing with advisors on diplomatic issues. Former President Jimmy Carter urging no agreement on a hostage release. And controversial longtime confidant Sidney Blumenthal, barred by the White House from working for her at the State Department, advising her on numerous foreign policy issues.
The drama. So it is time to be joined by Times of Israel diplomatic correspondent Rebecca Shimoni. Rebecca Shimoni-Stoyle. Rebecca, good morning to you.
Good morning.
I have to make a confession. I did read some of those emails yesterday, and you know, the thing that struck me was that there was a couple of meetings in the White House that she came to attend, but they were canceled and nobody told her, which quite would upset me. But that said, is there any type of smoking gun in these emails? Everybody's dealing with them in the States, so it seems to us little people in the Middle East. But do they have any kind of bearing on, be it the Libya story or her presidential run?
Well, for now, I think the greatest bearing that they have is what they don't contain. Right. These are not particularly juicy emails. In one, she tells a senior advisor to wear socks to bed to keep his feet warm. I mean, there's a couple of revelations here and there, other than the fact that she advocates sleeping in socks. But the fact of the matter is there's not a lot of pay dirt here for really great headlines, not for her to use and not for her opponents to use. That said, it's very striking that this release of what they call in the State Department this tranche of emails, 3,000 pages worth, came out roughly in parallel to one of her lead opponents, Jeb Bush's voluntary release of his tax history, spanning basically his entire life.
Right.
And so what the Republicans have been trying to do, at least indirectly, is paint the contrast between one candidate who's very eager to disclose all details of his personal life, including his earnings, and one candidate who is reticent, although she has said that she wants the emails released, to release even the emails that she's required to release as a government employee. So that's the distinction that's trying to be painted. But I think the way a lot of this has been spun here in Washington is that really Hillary Clinton comes off as a kind of sympathetic character in a lot of the emails. She's trying to figure out her facts. She's very relatable. She's worried that maybe Obama doesn't really like her after the 2008 campaign. And so there's this very human Hillary Clinton who's also coming out.
And she's telling some, old men to put socks on their feet when they go to bed. There's that as well. And exactly. No, but Rebecca, if you have time, do stay with us. But as I turn to Ruthie, because I'm looking at that, and the million-dollar question is, and something interesting that Rebecca said, that the Republicans simultaneously had Jeb Bush bring out his entire tax, history. It looks like, because this feels like the race. It feels like the Clinton and Jeb Bush race in many ways.
Front runners.
Front runners, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know that the two are really comparable. And look, as we've said, this is only the first tranche. There's still, this is 3,000 out of 55,000. So.
And they're going to be releasing those
until the Iowa caucus, basically. So we don't know what, if anything, is in the rest of it. I would venture to say that I think she comes across as fairly careful. She's, most of the emails that I looked at are fairly short. She doesn't get it drawn into any, even if somebody writes her something critical of Obama, say, she doesn't really respond. At most, she passes it on to others and says, what do you guys think? I think, to portray this somehow as reticent as opposed to Jeb Bush's, earnings and wealth, I think it's kind of mixing apples and oranges.
No, but I'm assuming that's what the Republicans are trying to do.
Yeah, but I think I really think it's a stretch. I think I can't quite see the public, buying this.
Buying this, yes,
Well, I just don't think that we're going to see a lot of really exciting stuff from these emails and from the emails to come. You have to remember that Clinton is the one who gave these 55,000 pages to the State Department.
And the state is the one that redacted, actually, a lot of
And the State Department also redacted some stuff.
Yeah.
So she decided what is private emails and what is work emails. And the private emails, allegedly, she already erased from her server in her home in New York. So we're not going to see, I think, the really, really juicy stuff. However, having said that, I do think that this stuff over the passing of time is kind of damaging. And I have some polls here that were done in mid-June, just about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
She is dealing with a problem that she is not seen honest and trustworthy, especially in swing states. A recent poll said that in Florida, 51% of voters hold a negative view of Clinton compared to 43%. In Ohio, 53% of voters see her not trustworthy, and the same in Pennsylvania, 54% of voters see her not trustworthy.
This was before the emails, so
but everybody knew about the
going to
but the emails were talked about for months already.
I know, but the content wasn't known. People were imagining.
Yeah, but her hiding stuff and the email, I just don't think it helps her image at all.
Hiding stuff is the thing. How is it? If we have, sadly, we don't have that much time. But Rebecca, is this resonating with the American people at all?
Well, certainly the release of this emails generated a lot of headlines over the past 24 hours. It was kind of dominating the election news cycle, and actually slightly more so than Jeb Bush's tax releases.
Right.
But I think that, people are left with these emails digging for nuance rather than some sort of bombastic headline. And certainly, of course, there is nothing really relevant to what the big story is, which is the efforts of the Republicans to turn in Benghazi and what
sadly,
happened in
Rebecca, I know,
into a major
and
issue.
all the time we have. Do stay with us when we'll get back. Women's World Cup, now the news. I-24 News Morning Edition on this July 2nd. I can't believe I had to look down and remember the date because you told me 20. It's Thursday. Yeah, it's Thursday. Who cares? Merav Savir is here. Yay!
I'm here.
No, hold on. Merav Safir, I-24 News correspondent. Merav Safir, also sports aficionado, and she's here to tell us all about the Women's World Cup being held in Canada now, and it's important because it's women playing, I'm going to say football, Merav.
It's okay.
It's okay, right? I'm going to say football. And you take it away and tell me what is important there.
Well, what is important is that we finally have the finals matchup, and it is once again the United States versus Japan, like 4 years ago. And both teams had an interesting way of getting here. The United States beating out Germany, who came in as the favorites, and Japan winning in a heartbreaking moment for England. We'll talk about that after we see the report.
After we see the report, I'm heartbroken about Germany. Let's take a look at the following report.
A clash of two World Cup titans, leading to an unexpected win.
That's it. The USA is going to the final.
Thundery chants of USA heard around the stadium after Team USA defeats Germany in the Women's World Cup semifinals. But the road to victory was a vicious one.
Two players are down.
This frightening moment when two players butt heads, just one of many close calls in this highly physical game.
Medical personnel came out and they did all the right tests, and I stepped on the field and I feel fine now.
Morgan Bryan, playing on despite that scare, will continue to be evaluated for concussion-like symptoms. The U.S. going into Tuesday's game ranked number 2, not expected to beat out top seed Germany.
The players executed, that's the key.
It was a scoreless first half thanks to two of the most renowned goalies in the world.
Soto got to it.
But in the second half, one player stepping up to change the tide of the game with this incredible penalty kick.
Walks up, shoots, scores.
Team captain Carly Lloyd puts one on the board for Team USA.
Shot,
the U.S. following it up with another dynamite goal by Kelly O'Hara to take the game 2-0, writing their ticket to the finals.
Thank God. We're going to Vancouver.
It was great, but we want more, and we want to make it to that final and top podium.
I'm sorry, I'm loving this, okay? I'm loving this. And we're going also to be joined now by Netta Chitov, who is physically there in flesh in Canada, covering the Women's World Cup. Netta, good morning or good evening to you. Thank you so much for being up with us. Very few people know that you too are a very, very accomplished football player yourself. I truly know that. Looking great. Tell us. Now everybody knows. The exciting moment yesterday, the match that leads to the finals. What happened? What did you see? And when will they take off their shirts?
Wow, so it was like two really amazing teams meeting together, but the Americans were much better. It was like from the first whistle, you could see that the Americans came, they were sharp, they were concentrated, they were very dynamic, and their coach was very flexible. She let them do whatever they want, kind of, around the field, and she let a forward be in the middle of the field and a defender to be in the front, and it really made the team. I think it's one of the best shows ever of the American team. They were amazing.
Wow, no, amazing. You're staying with us, Netta, but and I'm wondering with you, Merav, because I remember women's football in the States. I think it was 2000. That was the first big win. Still, why isn't this selling around the world? As it still
could be, unfortunately, because it's a women's sport. Obviously, when it's the Men's World Cup, everybody's tuned to their TVs. Now, this Women's Cup has generated more viewers than ever before. And just to continue with what Netta was saying, that these two are great teams. They're also two great teams who have been waiting to play each other. They thought they were going to meet back in 2011 in Germany, but Germany ended up getting knocked out by Japan. Right. The United States eventually lost to Japan. So this is a match that's maybe 4 years in the making. They've been waiting for this, and the United States came out on top, which is a huge victory for them. And it's, they had most of the fans out there, especially because it's right across North America. So they did have the fans there to cheer them on, and that's something that finally they were able to do 4 years after they originally prepared for one another. The other big game of the night last night was England-Japan, which set up the next one. It was an absolute heartbreaking loss for England. They were able to keep it.
England cannot get a break in the sport that they virtually invented.
Well, this is this was the hope for the first England women's team to make it to the finals of the World Cup, which makes it even more heartbreaking. In the way they lost it was tear-jerking, basically. It was 1-1 tie going into extra time, and it was an own goal.
Oh,
that lost it for them.
Ouch, ouch. But, I mean, back to the American team, Netta, because you're there, and it looks like a bunch of blonde women, which I love, personally I love, but, you know, the stars, you know, what would the defining moments would be in the games that you have seen?
So the coach decided not to put Abby Wambach, which is like the star, you know, forward of the team from the beginning. She entered the game only on the 80th minute, which is a very provocative and a brave way of playing. But it was right because she came with full of energy and she really brought into, you know, the game something else, something new and fresh. And we have to remember two facts about these two teams, the German and the Americans. The Americans got only one goal the whole tournament, and the Germans are the top scorers of the tournament. They scored 20 goals, which is a lot. So you have, you know, the best defending team and the best scoring team meeting yesterday. It was really amazing. And today, as Merav said, it was really heartbreaking. It was really, it was hard to watch it. She was very poor and miserable, the girl, but it was also very heartwarming to see how her teammates, they all came to her and hugged her and told her how they love her and that it's okay. And
right. No, I'm trying to think of it. It brings to mind there's no crying in football. Sorry, there's no crying in baseball. But I'm trying, and still, you know what?
There's a lot of crying in women's football and women's soccer, however you want to call it. There's a lot of crying.
We saw a lot of crying last year during the Men's World Cup also.
True.
Every time somebody got knocked
exactly.
out. So there's apparently a lot of crying in football.
But there's also...
Especially when they get injured.
When they get injured, exactly. In certain places, very, very true. But there were also some, you know, a lot of, you know, jubilation and happiness. There's also an interview that we can take a look at of the American team players after their victory after Germany, which I cried over. So let's have a listen to what they said.
You know, it was great. Overall, it was a fantastic team performance. So proud of Kelly for her goal, getting on the end of that. You know, I think throughout this tournament, our defense has been stellar. Hope has been awesome. Collectively, players on the bench, it's been great. And it was a satisfying feeling winning the game. But also, you know we have one more, and we didn't come here to get second place, so we want to win it.
I was just excited to be able to get on the pitch and help out my team, and I'm just so proud of everyone who's out there and fought, and just the collective effort last night.
You're one of the most decorated athletes ever to play this sport, and you would give it all for a World Cup title. Isn't that what you said?
This is it. Yeah, I mean, this is it. You know, obviously, my role is a lot different than it has been in past World Cups, and that's why I think it's so huge that players like Kelly and Carly are stepping up for our team. You know, and Kelly hasn't been playing that much until the last game against China, and I think it's really important to note that it's taking the entire team, the 23 players, even the two goalkeepers that probably will never see the pitch. They annoy the heck out of us throughout our practice training sessions because they're that good, and that's why our whole team is in the finals, and hopefully we just have one more game left.
I just want to say, I want kids in the studio, too. But, yes, and Merav, the coming up games.
Yes, so the final game is versus Japan, obviously the game that they lost 4 years ago in penalty shootout. So the U.S. is going to come in hungry, and like Netta said, the Abby Wambach coming off the bench really shows the depth. So they have the upper hand going into this last game.
And we're going to be watching.
Especially with the revenge factor.
With the revenge, and then you and I will be covering this live from this studio with our shirts on as we move along. To Ami Kaufman with the Spiral Viral, that is the web review.
Yes. Okay, this is not the prison break searching. We're searching for two people. This is a large-scale search effort on the internet for two people. It started with this person called Jen Herdbon who was visiting Paris, and she was on the Eiffel Tower, and she saw this couple. And if you see the picture of this couple, a man proposing to his apparently future to-be wife.
Right.
And she wants to give them the pictures. She took a lot of shots. She doesn't know who they are. So she said, can someone help me find these people? And these pictures are going all over the web now, and people are trying to find, so far, unsuccessfully.
This couple.
But nobody knows who this couple is yet, but everybody wants to find them.
Okay, I'm wondering if they really got engaged. Yeah, that's very cute for the morning. Thank you.
No.
Exactly, yeah.
She said yes, she hugged down. No.
Maybe like we do not want to be found. Yes.
Okay, you're going to have to play along with me. We're going to do a little role play now, okay? This is from BuzzFeed. This is a tweet that went extremely viral. It was a tweet from a 17-year-old called Maddie Nickens from Texas, who posted a conversation between her sister and her apparent boyfriend, Joey. I am going to be Joey.
Okay.
You will be the 11-year-old sister.
I'm this, okay.
Okay, and you are in blue. So
I'm in blue.
You can bring up the first picture, and
yes.
we can have Yael read the
I think I can see
blue.
that, the blue picture.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. I'm blue.
You're blue.
We need to talk.
Okay.
So I heard you went to the park with Natalie. Why would you cheat on me, Joey? Oh my God, sorry, that's me. I gave you 2 chances, and I actually believed you when you said you loved me, but I guess not.
I'm sorry. The next picture. I'm sorry. I was just hanging with her.
Whatever. Just don't talk to me in the middle of school. I didn't even love you.
Sounds good to me. And well, you were the one that bought my Starbucks drink, so you obviously love me a little bit.
Does this continue?
This is the last one.
This is the last one. Okay. And screw you, Joey. Ding, ding, ding. Oh, what was that? Oh, yeah, the elevator, because you're not on my level. I won this fight. We're over for real this time.
That is the best burn I have seen, and it's from an 11-year-old. Ding, ding, ding.
Ding,
you
ding,
are
ding.
Not,
I know, I'm doing this because
not,
I have flashes of my daughter, you know, like 7 years from now writing this.
Really? Isn't that perfect?
That is terrifying. Please, Merav, tell me this doesn't happen in the real world.
Well, not anymore. I'm not 11 anymore.
Okay, yes. Good
okay.
Yes.
Selfies and pictures in the White House are going to be allowed. After 40 years, there was a ban of taking pictures inside the White House, and Michelle Obama has announced it. Let's see the video of it.
Let's see Michelle announcing.
If you've been on a White House tour, you may have seen this sign. Well, not anymore.
Therapeutic, right? Yeah,
that's cute.
I want to say one
cute.
thing because I love the woman, and this is going to sound really catty, but it is Thursday. I'm glad there are selfies allowed. She should not be wearing that dress.
Yeah,
but there are selfies, but there are no selfie sticks
No
allowed.
selfie sticks, no tripods, no tablets.
No tablets. Selfie sticks apparently are like being banned now across the board in many places.
Disneyland?
Disneyland. I'm glad selfie sticks can kill.
Okay, now we're going to do a little experiment here with an iPhone.
An iPhone.
Speaking
For that,
of an iPhone.
we have Merav Severe.
Okay, Siri is now insulting people, okay, because of a math question. And the math question is, what is 0 divided by 0? Let's see what happens.
No, and I want to start this off by saying that I despise Siri.
You despise it?
When Siri asks me, what do you want to do? I'd say, uninstall you. Okay,
let's see if
what's
it
the
works.
question?
Okay, let's see if it works. What am I asking her?
What is 0 divided by 0?
Yeah.
What is 0 divided by 0?
Silence.
Oh, it didn't work.
Yeah. No, she's not actually talking. She's just giving me results on the screen.
I'll tell you what it says. I'll tell you what it says.
What does it say?
It says, Siri says, I can't do my Siri voice anymore. Imagine that you have 0 cookies and you split them evenly among 0 friends. How many cookies does each person get? See, it doesn't make sense. And Cookie Monster is sad that there are no cookies, and you are sad that you have no friends.
That is Siri's response?
To 0, what is 0?
Kill Siri. No, Siri. I'm sorry. See, that is, yeah, Siri is a terrible invention.
Isn't it?
And horrible.
Okay, look at this next picture from the New York Daily News. This is for an iPhone. It's a cover, a case for an iPhone. It's shaped like the grip of a handgun. And cops are going crazy over this in New York. They say this is the most ridiculous and stupid thing that is on sale on the internet.
No,
so people put this thing next to their head.
That is
it looks
asinine. No,
like
that
a
is
pistol.
not right. Yeah, that is not right. That is
just
not
dumb?
right. Because in a place like New York, hopefully that's not the case anymore. Something like this, as the headline says, can get a kid killed.
I mean, there's enough gun violence.
Violence in the United States.
Yeah,
do not. Yeah. Okay. No.
Things
and that's why we live in the peaceful Middle East.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I just want to finish with the huge Hollywood breakup that everybody's still talking about. Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck. I mean, this is an earthquake.
Severe is devastating.
Apparently,
I didn't even know what happened.
According to TMZ, our favorite, according to sources close to TMZ, it was because of Ben's drinking and gambling. Gambling.
I mean, hold on. I do not believe that we did not begin the show with this.
Well, I wanted to end with a with a big punch. Yeah.
Punch.
Ben is not denying this. First of all, he says that yes, he does gamble and he does drink, but it's not. This isn't the reason that they broke up. They were actually been separated for about 10 months.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there are other reports, by the way, that say that they're going to continue living together in the same house despite being divorced. As you can see, I am totally on top of this story. I am owning the story.
You're on top of that story. You will be covering this in depth. Yes. I am devastated. Two people are getting divorced. That never happens. No, okay. Thank you, Ami Kaufman, for this in-depth report. And Merav Savir, obviously, always such a pleasure. When we get back, something entirely different. When we get back, it's going to be This Week in History. Apparently, people were still upset this time, many years ago. Stay with us. We'll take a closer look. First, the news. I-24 News Morning Edition, July 2nd, 2015. Who cares? It's Thursday. Yay! Yes, I am surrounded by, I was about to say two bearded men, but Avri Rosenzweet,
Rosenzweet, you had it right, and you had to, and then you went ahead and destroyed it.
Avri Rosenzweet actually said that it's one bearded man and one caveman.
That is true.
And that would be Amit Kling, yeah. But you're looking kind of, you know.
Like I just woke up from a sleep since 10,000 BC. Yeah, I know that.
And that will be the item that you bring us. But first, Avri.
Hello.
Hello, Culture Magazine
quiet
editor.
Now. It's my turn to talk. Oh, I will mess you up.
I'm just going to leave the studio. Creepy. Avri Rosenzweet.
We're starting.
Magazine editor. I want to interview you. Yes.
I am indeed.
The man, the legend, the cat on your T-shirt. What do you have for us?
It's a panther, I think.
It's a panther. There we go. And
we're starting with Terminator Genisys, opening this weekend.
There's another Terminator?
There is another Terminator. There was actually a very funny, a very funny meme on Facebook, which was like, there's a Terminator movie coming out, a Jurassic Park movie is first in the...
Again?
Clinton and a Bush are running for it. What year is this?
1992. Yes, it's 1992.
So yes, we do have Terminator and a Jurassic Park in cinemas. We'll talk about Jurassic Park in a second.
They're like
startups? No, they're both sequels.
Sequels, okay.
Yeah. The issue we're talking about with the Terminator movie is that in the trailer, the last trailer of the movie, there was a reveal there that some people felt was a bit spoilerish to the movie, and we weren't sure. I think people thought maybe it's a mind fuck, maybe there's a bigger spoiler, whatever.
Ding, 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 ding. Sorry, yes.
Now the director has come out and said, I was not happy with the reveal in the trailer. Alan Taylor, director, came from television. He directed Thor: The Dark World, the Marvel movie, now moved on to this movie.
And this new trailer we're going to watch is what?
Well, this is the last trailer of the movie. Let's watch a bit. I don't know if it's the spoilery bit.
Okay, let's watch this trailer, and then all of this will make sense. There you go.
No.
John, you can do this. You just go, and you don't look back. My whole life, I prepared my son to lead humanity in the fight against the machines.
On this night, we take back our world!
Okay, I'm confused.
Faithfully, okay,
No, wait. This is a sequel, but didn't the kid already grow up and we had a Terminator where he's already at the apocalyptic world?
Oh, yeah. Fun fact, we're sort of ignoring Terminator 3 and 4. Everybody did. This is a direct sequel.
See, I'm the only one who saw it on a plane. Okay, but
this is. No, I saw them. They were horrible.
They were horrible.
We're forgetting them. Like those Star Wars movie that.
Now we have a sequel that spells Genesis in a cool way because it's the 90s and we love weird spelling again.
No, it's in the. I thought so too, but it's in the plot of the movie.
All non-geeks of our audience, you know that.
Okay, so let me explain.
Yes, explain.
Okay,
yes.
So this movie sort of takes off from the second movie, which was the good movie.
Yes.
Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And actually, this movie has been endorsed by James Cameron, who said that for him, it's the third movie in the trilogy. Okay, so two things. First of all, it's very interesting now what's going on with marketing, because the studios don't care about spoilers anymore. They don't care about revealing too much. In the last years, we've seen a lot of movie fans sort of complain about this, that they have to avoid trailers at all costs because it sort of spells out the entire movie. And Alan Taylor himself said he would rather this remain a secret. He says he understands why they did it because they wanted to differentiate it from the first Terminators.
Okay, I'm going to stop you for a second. What in God's name was the spoiler?
Okay, so...
Yeah, seriously. I mean,
I'm waiting for this.
What is the spoiler?
If you don't want to be spoiled, stop
come
now.
on, spoiled.
Okay, so...
put your hands on your ears. Yes.
So
tell me what to do.
Kyle Reese goes back in time to protect Sarah Connor, but everything has changed. The Terminator, the Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator, has been sent way back to protect her as a child. Arnie is great, by the way. He makes this movie. He's a big part of the movie.
Schwarzenegger is in the movie.
He's amazing. Okay. He's the best part of it. It's a so-so movie, but Schwarzenegger is amazing.
It is I'll be back, or what was it? I shall be back. I'll
be back. Yeah.
I'll be back. Okay.
So he comes back. They have to jump again to the future. Whatever.
Yeah.
But then John Connor appears in the past, and he's part robot. And he's sort of the villain of the piece.
I'm blown to pieces right now. Wow. Move on.
Yeah, okay. But it's very interesting. I think this movie and Jurassic Park are sort of emblematic to this time where we've had so many sequels and reboots. And these movies try to be sort of very reverential to the source material. You know, they have this movie and Jurassic Park have a lot of sort of references to the source material, to the first movies.
Right.
And it ends up being a bit of a detriment because you're like, oh, yeah, they're reminding me of a better movie that I watched.
Right, that was the first one when I was a kid.
When it was good.
And before
I should watch that again.
I should do
Why am I wasting my time?
And that's a scheme. But before we move along, and we're going to move along quickly, I think it shows yet again, Hollywood needs new scripts.
They really need new scripts.
Write something original.
And stop with the endless brands.
And brands.
But,
I know.
Yeah, they're so afraid of...
And listen to us, people who are sitting in Israel next to the beach.
But you know what?
Yeah.
But you know what?
It's a consensus, come on.
Consensus, true.
They won't because Jurassic World is the biggest movie this year and it's headed to be one of the biggest movies of all time.
Yeah.
Brands work.
But so...
especially...
That's Jurassic Park.
That's Jurassic World.
But come on,
please.
Jurassic World.
So often when we're trying a new brand, like it was with Guardians of the Galaxy or even...
Wait, they've got dinosaur sharks. This is
it's not good yet. No.
No?
It's not terrible. It's fun while you're there, but it's forgettable.
Yeah,
popcorn schlock. And the first movie still lives with me, you know? It's an amazing movie.
I'm going to have
I think about dinosaurs every day.
Wait. That movie lives with Avril. You got to move along. Yes, and
My
what
heart
else?
will go on.
Yeah.
With dinosaurs. Okay.
What? That's a mashup I would watch.
It is a mashup. Okay. So, 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh, no.
Who doesn't love 50 Shades of Grey? No, but it is the franchise we love to hate.
Thank you. It is the franchise I love to hate.
And
I think 50 Shades of Grey, gives a bad name to sex. It really does.
And to S&M. You want to tell us something yet?
No, but okay.
Okay.
No, nothing. La la la.
Okay. So there was a Twitter Q&A with E.L. James, and as you know, everyone can tweet questions.
Yes.
And Twitter did not disappoint. They were hilarious.
Yes.
We had tweets like, "Is there a safe word we can use to get you to stop writing such drivel?"
I think it's drivel.
Drivel. Yes.
We had one that said, my favorite, which do you hate more, women or the English language?
I wrote that one. No, just kidding. Okay.
It's very funny.
Yes.
Or one sort of... After the success of Grey, have you considered retelling the story from the perspective of someone who can write?
Amen. No, Aubrey.
Which is not...
No, it's golden. It's so golden. It's the time of the show to move to...
Okay, wait, one last
one.
What's your favorite shade out of the 50? Is there a chance more shades will be added?
Yes, okay.
Yes. Yeah, Twitter people
thank you.
Are full of wind.
Full of wind, and I think that was the only response to that drivel. I'll say that was Drivel. That was 50 Shades of Grey. But Drivel was also written many years ago. Drivel actually is something that has existed in time and in history, and that is why this is the time to move to Amit Kling.
Is this seriously what you just
seriously
said?
Seriously, it is. To the master of historical drivel being...
That is me.
Yeah, that would be you.
That is...
Shakespeare now.
There you go.
That was the weirdest
To this week in history, Amit Kling, take it away. Yes.
All right. So tomorrow... 132 years ago, which would make 1883.
Yes.
It's the birthday of, a literary titan, seriously.
Titan.
Which is, ironic in many ways. We'll talk about it in a minute. It's Franz Kafka.
James did not.
No.
Shut up. You shut up now.
No, from 50 Shades. This is a titan, and this is, he deserves a song. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you, Franz. Happy birthday, dear Kafka.
This is gonna get weird in a second.
And it just did.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay, so
Actually,
Kafka was born.
Yeah, the Kafka birthday song probably just goes on forever.
Exactly.
And the cake never comes in.
It never comes in. Yes.
No, but seriously, this is
government agents singing.
No, Kafka, listen, he's the master of, I think the pen that launched, definitely not 50 Shades of Grey, but the pen that launched many, literary themes and
pretty much a half of the 20th century. Even if you go into weird experimental, like American novelists like Thomas Pynchon, the paranoia at the core of so much of American post-war literature is very Kafka. Clearly,
I stopped for a moment. Avri is like
one of the really few authors that, of course, have an actual word after them, which is, of course, Kafkaesque.
Yeah.
Who gets that?
He got a slang word. It's very Kafkaesque.
Who gets
that? They're not talking about a brilliant, very handsome writer. They're talking about other things.
I really think what's amazing about his works is that they all sort of coexist in the same world. There's a sense of being to the existence in a Kafka piece.
There's a sense of being. Wow. I don't know how I have no rebuttal to that.
And they're yet so different, but
incredibly
still.
So. Yes, moving along.
All right, July 4th, 1910.
Yes.
Yes, it was the Jack Johnson-Jim Jeffries boxing match. Not a fight between the Australian comedian and the guy who sang "Is She Really Going Out With Him?"
Yeah,
but rather the two boxers. But seriously, Jack Johnson was the first African-American heavyweight boxing champ.
It looked like
and of course the footage is from 1910.
No, clearly.
And Jim Jeffries is the man who was billed as the Great White Hope.
The Great White Hope actually was written. I think the Great White Hope was actually basically coined as a phrase after Jeffries.
Yes, he was the Great White Hope. Yeah. He was billed as such about the fight.
Yeah.
You understand?
This is many years before Rocky.
Yes, but of course,
literally the White Hope.
And it was called the fight of the century, which is an arrogant thing to say in 1910. Seriously.
Let the century begin, people.
Come on.
It just started.
Ali, come on. Muhammad Ali, guys, come on.
Exactly.
But seriously, and Johnson won. So Great White Hope, not so much. Not so great. And it sparked, of course, a lot of the black population celebrated in the streets. And there were reports of race riots, which is controversial because some of the reports on the riots are just black people being happy in public.
That's very scary. To this day, it scares the police in the United States.
But that is the thing that is so
but there's a twist to it because
this line, the line you just said,
white people did attack them.
Right.
And 20 people were killed, so there were riots.
There were riots, but that line that you said that what is usually described and in some parts of the United States still described as riots is African American people being happy.
Or angry in a very considered way.
Emotional.
Yeah, it's like New Orleans. No, it's not a riot. It's Mardi Gras. Okay, there's that. Yes.
Yes. So that was okay. June 29th is we have 2 years on that because 1975 and 2007, it's a big date for the Apple company.
June 29th, Apple is right.
The Apple One is tested and. Almost 40 years later, the first iPhone prototype is released.
It's when it started, people. It's when it started.
Yes, this is where this started.
This is where this started.
But it actually started almost 4 years ago with a guy named Steve Wozniak. No Steve Jobs back then. Steve Wozniak sitting in his garage and testing that prototype. Now this guy left Wozniak left Apple in...
Well, Wozniak, I mean, that even I know, because that's the big Steve story, is that Wozniak is actually the brain behind, the mastermind behind all those designs and whatnot.
All those designs.
And Steve Jobs actually just liked the color white.
Yeah. This is actually amazing. That's the birth of the Apple Snob.
It's the birth of the Apple Snob.
I only use it as an iWatch.
Exactly. It drives me crazy.
Android,
it works too slow, but we all have it. Yeah, we all have it, folks.
I have those, but I hate the Apple Snobs.
And another June the 29th was
2007. Both things on the June 29th. That's the deal.
2007, the first iPhone. Got it. Okay, it's Thursday.
Almost 4 years apart. Same date.
Same date.
This really,
It's it's masterful.
And clearly not a coincidence, because you know that Jobs was a big picture guy. He was obsessive to details. This is not a coincidence.
This is not a coincidence.
And what date did he start wearing turtlenecks in history? Do we have that?
I don't think that was. He was born in a turtleneck. I think everybody knows that.
And one last one, real quickly.
Okay, this is kind of sad, because July 1st.
You're gonna end on a sad note?
Not half sad.
Yes.
2000 is the death of an amazing comedic actor, Walter Matthau.
It's Matthau? I think it's Walter Matthau.
I'm not sure. Matthau.
It's Walter Matthau. Walter Matthau was phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yes. We have a bit from The Odd Couple. So
yes, we have to see a little bit of The Odd Couple.
Come on.
Please. We have it?
Handle this Stanford matter for you. Ben Reisman, Rotman, Rifkin, and Grady.
We're never getting away with this. But who the hell are you?
I am Denard. Sergeant Perlman. Bartley speaking.
Lord, I ask you for help, and you send me a weird, comic blind man.
Sometimes the truth don't fit. I take in a little here. I like to hope Gardner.
That is not The Odd Couple. But it is Walter Matthau.
No, wait. This is. I do have a point to this.
No, we have a second to go.
Okay,
we have no point. Sadly, Walter Matthau died on July 1st. Sadly, the world is not the same, but we have you. I-24 News Morning Edition. Check us out tomorrow morning. Tune in for another edition. And, of course, stay with I-24 News for the rest of the day for all the news.